T, Hogwarts Legacy is coming out. I know that you are not a big fan of Harry Potter.
No,
and
it's
I'm
terrible.
the biggest fan possible. That's actually
great.
the other way around.
Yeah.
I moderately care about Harry Potter, but you're super passionate for it.
I love it. I've read the books multiple times, the movies countless times. I love it. I love everything about it. I love the characters. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. I grew up with it. It is just me.
Yeah,
That's who
so
I am. I
because of
identify
that,
as a Harry Potter fan.
You kind of even look like one with those glasses.
Hey,
and because of that, we're actually going to look today at 5 things that we want to see in the new game. Because, frankly, I'm even excited about this game, and I'm probably the most softcore, moderate Harry Potter fan you could be. I'm a softcore Hermione fan. What can I say? Anyways, let's move on. Number 5. The first one is a wide open world, mostly. This can't be so open that it's crap. So here's a game I was thinking about with that. Not that this is really an open world, but we've recently been playing Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
And there's so many wide open areas with nothing in the majority of the area. We're not really looking for that. We're looking for more something Breath of the Wild-y or Skyrim-ish, where it's a world that feels natural and normal and lived in. There might be some empty places, sure, that's how the world is, but it feels like a world, not a designed area. And you and I talked about different locations they could go to and different things in this world.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing too, is like we've talked about with Avengers, is it's a giant world that's more of like a hub with you going to the same spots, and it doesn't feel connected really, to be honest. It's just like you're going to a different place and really doing a lot. What I think everyone would love with this game is a very connected open world, kind of like a Breath of the Wild, maybe even Super Mario Odyssey, that kind of vibe where it's just like it's all connected very well. So Hogwarts, you have obviously the giant Hogwarts castle with Hogsmeade and the Forbidden Forest and places you can go see. But you could also travel if you want to. We saw it in the trailer, Azkaban, the prison, so you can go see places like that. Maybe, like you mentioned, that'd be really cool, go to places like London with King's Cross and maybe even see some Muggle locations that you wouldn't normally see.
And since Azkaban is in here, I do wonder a little bit, if you were to go to a Muggle location and use magic, is there some kind of penalty to your character where you're thrown in Azkaban temporarily?
That's a great point.
Or is this just an area that you're visiting? That's kind of something I was wondering watching this.
It'd be really interesting. And I mean, we see a lot from the trailers where there does seem to be a lot of exploring. It looks like in one of the shots of the trailer that you're flying on a hippogriff and just kind of exploring around, and like you're looking for caves and other places where you can find more secrets and maybe a dragon, stuff like that. So that's really cool. So I'm hoping that we see this giant wide open world that's really connected, because
like
there's
free roamy a little bit.
Yeah, and there's so much in the Harry Potter universe to see and to explore, and there's just tons of Easter eggs I think that they could place around here. So I really would love that, and I think that's going to be a critical part of the story, and how they tell the story is how they build this environment and how they just kind of let you go. Because that's what Harry Potter fans, I think, have been dying for forever. Is we had the EA games where it just followed the movies, movie by movie. And there were some fun, entries into that franchise. But for the most part, it kind of was lackluster in a lot of ways. I think Deathly Hallows Part 1 was not great. And then Part 2 was okay. It was kind of like a Gears of War kind of vibe, which was not... It wasn't Harry Potter. So I don't know. There was... This will be a really nice change from what EA gave us before, I guess.
Well, and I guess I would appreciate a little bit, though, if you spoke for yourself and not all Harry Potter fans, because a lot of us have been waiting for the Dumbledore Rule 34 AAA game,
dude,
and we haven't seen that
bad.
yet. So I think that that's a bit of an overstep on your part. But the next book should definitely cover Dumbledore's sex life well enough to produce probably a trilogy of games.
Yeah, we can only hope so, and I'm glad you checked me there.
Number 4!
Play.
So the next one that we have is actually the Sorting Hat. You can explain this better than me, but we kind of want to see some sort of personality test or test of some kind that influences where you're put and that whole experience.
Yeah, so what I thought would be kind of cool, and I think that you would agree, is that I'm talking for you again. That's my bad. I did it again. But
I don't agree.
So if you you start your journey, you get to Hogwarts, and you can kind of see in the trailer too. It's what seems like you're arriving to Hogwarts in like a carriage. And so what I think would be cool is if you put the hat on, and then it gave you like a test, or that it kind of gave you a way to gauge what house the game thinks that you would fit in best. And you have that option. It's like, this is, so if you took the test, and it's like, I think you'd be a really good Ravenclaw.
I'd probably be a Slytherin.
Perfect. So like, you would be, ideally what we think you would be is a Slytherin, but you can choose what house you want to be in, which is like how it is in the books and the movies too, is you get input into what house that you think you would be best in. So the Sorting Hat takes that into consideration. They could really use that and allow you to choose what house you want to be in, while also giving you input if you don't know.
Well, and something about those houses, I don't remember if we put this in the actual list later on or not, but we do want to see a bit of a different experience depending on your house. So maybe if I'm a Slytherin, maybe my path takes me down some missions that your path as a Hufflepuff wouldn't. Something like that would be very interesting. It would also encourage you to create multiple characters in a way almost like Destiny, or a game like World of Warcraft, where there's different paths a little bit depending on the character, or different abilities that you get. That would be really interesting, and maybe your wizard focuses on certain things even within that house. So there's multiple different builds and playthroughs depending on these houses that would really affect the game. Now, this could become a ridiculous time sink if we go too far in this direction of an idea, but it's a really neat idea, and fans have been waiting, over a decade for a game like this. I would say closer to 20 years, since early 2000, for something that really encapsulated Harry Potter and what it was, and they haven't really gotten that full experience yet. So I think that's, like it or not, that's what they're expecting out of this, is that full experience. And if they don't get that, I think fans are going to be a little disappointed.
Number 3.
So the next one that we have actually ties into that a little bit, which is character customization within canon boundaries. So maybe you're not running around with a mascot head on and a bikini or something like that, running around the world. Well, you probably will be in mods if this gets modded onto PC. But I'm just saying,
Dumbledore,
just as a normal game, maybe you don't have that stuff, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, you do want some level of character customization. Otherwise, it feels very linear no matter what you do. If you're just going around in the same school uniform for 100 hours,
right,
that would be kind of boring.
That'd be a lot. And there are, so even in some of the mobile games that you'll see, there's a Hogwarts Mystery on the, like, that's a mobile option that you can play. And so you can create your own character. It's kind of
J.
like
K. Rowling.
So it's a way toned down version of this, obviously by a ton, but like you can create your own character, go into what house you want to go into, and there are different clothes that you can buy and customize and kind of just go that way. So I think that this is definitely a must for this game, and like you said, you want to keep it kind of within canon boundaries, so that there are some normal, I guess, Muggle clothes that you can wear. Otherwise, you can just go full Hogwarts. You can do whatever you want.
You don't want to be running around as the Flyers mascot?
Gritty?
Yeah. No, probably not. Number 2. RPG elements. Sort of what's your take on that? What did you mean because you brought that up to me, that you wanted to see that.
Yeah. So I didn't even tell you this, by the way, but I think I read that you start the game in your 5th year. So you're not starting at year 1. I believe you're starting in your 5th year, and you do years 5, 6, and 7 in this game. And so what I'd like to see is you start as a 5th year student. Maybe you start with a standard set of abilities that you've gained over your years being at Hogwarts. But then you're able to, from there, learn and develop and grow, and as you go to class, you learn new spells that are really helpful if you need to go into a certain cave. And we saw like Transfiguration and Defense Against the Dark Arts in the trailer, so that was really cool. But it'd be awesome to continually build and grow as a student, and then even after you graduate, if you're learning new things from other like professors still, if you can go back in and pick up new things. I just think that there's a lot that you can develop and grow on it and make as part of an RPG Harry Potter game. So there's just a lot that you can build on. You could go to, like you mentioned, going to the library, and there's lore in there that you maybe didn't see, so there's some secrets. There's like a spell you pick up from there that maybe you didn't have.
Well, yeah, and that's something I wanted to see, is a different experience depending on you and me. So maybe I find something that talks about this time period, or a time period before this that we haven't seen. Something that actually matters and builds on the internal background story of the game, other than just the story that you're developing.
Right. And I think that'd be really cool. And you mentioned like having companions and player AI relationships that you can really develop, and I'll let you I'll let you talk about that a little bit more.
So here's the thing that I was kind of thinking. I was thinking something like Skyrim or Fallout, where you sort of save a character, an AI character, an NPC in the game, and they are not heavily written into the story, but written in enough to be a companion. They sort of come off as a sidekick. Fair enough, but you develop some sorts of relationships with these different characters. I think that would actually help too, because there are going to be players in this who are just big fans of Harry Potter and don't have other friends that are. So I think that would really branch out that experience for them, because this really seems focused on, all these people are at Hogwarts, this is such a great time. I'm not sure if it's always online in that way, but I'm sure there's a way to play it offline. And I don't want that way to be a lesser experience for those people, or people, maybe even people like you who might have been waiting for this game for so long that you don't want to carry my ass through the whole experience. Maybe you just want to experience the story for 10 hours on your own. You don't want that to be empty without anyone else.
Sure.
So,
I think that's a really good idea. I think it'd be really nice to have that option too. And I think that could even go into another, like we talked about mini games too. So like an example would be Quidditch. And there are some other ones too that, there are smaller games that would be kind of fun to play that you even see a little bit in the older Harry Potter games. But with Quidditch, I think if they really focused on this and made it an experience that like you can go do and spend hours on, kind of like with GTA, for example, with like golf or tennis, like you could go do that and have a pretty good time, and it's a pretty decent mode.
Yeah.
Quidditch should get, I think, even more time and resources put into it, because if you could do that with AI and go through the Quidditch World Cup every year with your house, or if you want, you could do like with friends, and you just have like you play with a mismatch of different people online and play Quidditch. And
I want to learn how to play the recorder.
Sure.
The recorder or the flute or something, and play a distorted Harry Potter theme.
That could be a game in there. Yeah.
Do you think they'll teach me that?
I'm sure they will. Yeah, the PS5 is capable of anything, so that's really cool that you said that.
You are right, though, on Quidditch. I mean, it's one of the things that is synonymous with Harry Potter. I mean, they even have, I don't know if they have more than one, but they even had that full Quidditch game on the PS2. It's that synonymous with it that this is Harry Potter's version of soccer in a way, or football, or whatever. It's the big sport associated with that universe. So it would be kind of a missed opportunity not to do anything with that.
Right, 100%.
Number one.
It's number one.
So that actually brings us to our final entry, which is interesting because you know the universe much better than I do as well, and you can sort of encapsulate this. I have a couple things to add there in the middle, but the story in general.
Yes, yeah, the story. So with this, I think it's important to note that J.K. Rowling is minimally. I don't even think she really is involved in the game.
Yeah, because she got canceled.
Right, she got canceled. So yeah, so she's not really involved in that at all. So
ironic.
It's true. So she's not really involved. So they have to figure out kind of like a story and a central villain that they're going to use for this game and this story. So I think that's going to be one of the big challenges, is figuring out, because with Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, you've got Voldemort and you've got Grindelwald. Those are your two kind of main.
Yeah, you got the Dark Lords.
Right.
The first Dark Lord, and then sort of not the copycat Dark Lord. The Dark Lord everyone likes, that's essentially copying the first one.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got those two. And so it begs the question of what they're going to do for this one. Who's going to be the central villain of this, especially with it being in the late 1800s? Neither of those characters are really, at large, obviously.
And will the main villain have a nose?
Right, that is the question. It's a 50-50 chance. Grindelwald did, Voldemort did not. So
yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I think that'll be really important as far as, develop, because you see in the trailer they've got dragons, and you see what looks to be kind of like Death Eater looking guys, so there are going to be bad guys.
Yeah, those were interesting. They almost came across as highwaymen.
Yeah, they did.
They were just ambushing wizards out on the road.
Yeah, they were. I know.
So that was kind of weird. It also makes me wonder for the story, do you have an input into being a little bit evil or roguish? Because if you go too far down that path, you'd be expelled from Hogwarts.
Right.
If you go too far down that path. But also, there are members of Hogwarts that are maybe not quite as moral and skirt around the rules a little bit.
Right.
Can you be that guy or girl? Or are you just are you Harry Potter, where it's a sense of duty and you're just a good student and you're doing your thing? Are you Newt Scamander, which is a little bit more of the screw-up kid who still has that sense of duty, but you're a little bit more of of a mess up.
Right.
You know, what direction do you take this, and how far do you have player agency in that story, I guess?
Right, because I think that's important, because if you are Slytherin and you're going a little bit more rogue, would you align then with the bad guy potentially, and you're going against other...
But then you might get kicked out of Hogwarts.
Potentially, but...
Or sent to Azkaban.
Maybe you want to go that way, then.
And maybe you can get kicked out of Hogwarts and Azkaban, and maybe you can have an experience outside of that. I don't know.
Which would be super cool.
It just depends. I mean, have billions of dollars been funneled into this game? It sounds like
the thing.
We're making it the most open experience of all time.
I know.
Yeah, basically our list. What do you want to see from this? The best game ever.
It's true, dude. Maybe we're getting a little bit too crazy.
No,
here.
but it's a really interesting idea, because you even point out you need to be able to navigate the school and the world and live a life, and part of living a life is making those decisions. And also, for me, one of the things that's a big deal with this is why this time period. What makes this special?
For sure.
And you and I talked about it a little bit. I don't want to overstep my bounds, because there will be hardcore Harry Potter fans that might get a little defensive about this statement.
Sure.
But the way that Warner Brothers has always handled all this stuff is never telling you this is or isn't canon to the books. And never saying, this is its separate continuity, don't relate it to the books. But they just do their adaptations of stuff. They do their adaptations in their world of Lord of the Rings. They do their adaptations and world of Harry Potter, all this different stuff. And when they do that, they seem to tie any external products, games, any of this other stuff that's not the original source material into their adaptations. They don't go and say, by the way, Hogwarts Legacy, play it before you read this book. They sort of tie it into their Warner Bros. Stuff. And whether you want to say that's because it's its own universe or whatever you want to say, because with Lord of the Rings, it really seems like it is. They have their own separate, completely separate thing where they really tried hard to tie in Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War into the movies and almost say this is canon to the movies, but the books don't really matter. So it's they go so far in a direction of their stuff. And what I'm trying to get to by this is, what I don't want is, we put this here because it didn't get in the way of anything else we wanted to do, and you couldn't screw up the world at this period of time because there'd be time to fix it. That's what I don't want, because then it's just, we shoved you into a corner of the universe where you can't do any damage, which I think is kind of annoying. I want there to be a purpose to why we're here. Why are we before all of the movies and any main real event that we see for the most part in the continuity?
There are even characters that are alive while you're in this time period that are, that you'd see in Harry Potter. So Dumbledore's still alive, Bathilda Bagshot, who is kind of not a central member, but an important side character in the story as well. So, like, there are characters that are alive during that time period. It'd be cool to have a cameo from that. But like you said, you don't want it to be where you're just kind of, all right, you stick here. This is your slot in the wizarding world.
This is your lane. Stay in your lane.
Don't go away from it at all. This is where you need to be. And so I think it'd be nice to be able to have an impact. And like, your story is a critical part of the wizarding world and what happened. So I agree. I hope they don't do that either. That'd be good.
That would be disappointing if that was the case the other way.
Yeah.
So hey, these are our 5 things. I think overall you're more excited, but I'm still very excited to play this game. This also seems very much like it serves to be something fans have wanted for years, but it also looks like something a new Harry Potter fan could sort of jump into and find their place in the wizarding world. So we're both very excited for this game. Let us know what you want to see in the comments down below. Maybe you want your wizard to have a big titty goth GF wizard. I don't know. I'm down for it. Let me know. I'm interested. I like your feedback. Unless you don't like me or disagree with me, then I don't want to hear your feedback.
Sure.
But anyway, let me know what you're thinking down there. Leave a like if you enjoyed this. Leave a dislike if you disliked it. As always, we will see you in the next one. Have a fantastic day. And as always, stay shway. Lumos, Espiriosa, Bimble, Bamble, Booble.
Dude!